I was cleaning out my basement the other day and I found this folder from when I was really sick, and I thought I'd use this as an opportunity to tell a little bit of a story, because I haven't really told the story of how sick I was, because it's such a big, long story, and this video might be a long one, but I will try to start out in a shorter bit and see what happens, and then go into it a little bit later in the same video here. But I'll start out with a summary, and that is because somebody asked me when I posted one of my other videos, they asked me something like, what exactly did God say to you and how did all this come about? And this video is really an opportunity to respond to that person. So here's the video. And what I came across was this folder, and I had been sick with what I thought was Lyme disease since 2003. And then in 2008 and 2009, had another episode. I got bit by a spider in the back of my right knee, back in here. I had a big welt, and this was out in Portland, Oregon area. In the Oregon area, I woke up one morning with my leg all stiff, and I showed it to locals, and they said that's a spider bite. And that led one thing to another. The rash continued all over my whole leg, and my glands in my groin got all swollen and hard and felt really bad. And that continued for months and months, the stiffness in that knee. And then my wife was pregnant and expecting any day, and at the same time there was a lot of stress at work, and I was traveling out of town on weekends, and I mean during the week, and only had weekends to take care of all those things when you're going to have a baby. And there was just lots of stress at work and lots of stress at home. And I took a big long walk one Sunday afternoon, and nothing out of the ordinary, a couple hours, and I woke up on Monday, went to work, and couldn't walk that well on this right leg that had the spider bite before. And so made it through that day, hardly walking very well, and then woke up in the middle of that night with this knee all exploded and in excruciating pain, and couldn't walk at all. Ended up going to the hospital. They took a Lyme test. They said, you're off the charts. One thing led to another. I ended up in the Tick-Borne Disease Center of southeastern Pennsylvania, which is a half an hour drive. And they immediately took another test that was more extensive. And when that came back, said that basically, in his own medical terms, without saying it, he couldn't understand how I was still alive from all the other tests that they had done. People with lower scores. I had all these crazy scores. Anyway, he recommended immediately that I get this PICC line installed from here to my heart and pump antibiotics. So I went to surgery for that, and shortly after that, so 6 days a week I was pumping antibiotics with this big bag of antibiotics and a battery operated pump for 2 hours a day, and I feel things crawl out of my skin, of my head and my face when I was doing it. And this was 2008 into 2009. And so I did that for 2 months with the antibiotics and felt horrible, like I was going to die. I also engaged with a naturopathic doctor. I got surgery on my knee around that time, I was in and out of surgery 3 times. One to have this line installed, one to have it removed, one to have the knee operated on. Had a lot of drugs, had a lot of antibiotics, which I know now killed my gut flora or microbiome, and that in turn, added to all the joint problems. I was not eating too healthy, and that was contributing to it also. So I had several doctors. I had a psychiatrist. I had a naturopathic doctor. I had the orthopedic. I had the general practitioner. I had the tick-borne disease center specialist. I was just going to one doctor after another and on disability, and they kept wanting to deny my disability, which I found out later is common. So that was a battle. Every time at the last minute, they wanted another thing. And so to make a long story short, that was 2008, 2009. I made it through that. Still struggled a lot of days, many years past that, and then had job changes and a lot of things happen in life with my family and stuff like that. A lot more stress, and then it's kind of like I can't remember the actual order of everything, but at some point, and maybe I'll come back to this, but just let me get to what I found. The first thing I found were these pictures. Let me show you these pictures on my iPhone. These pictures were taken in October of 2015. So this was several years after the 08-09 incident with the PICC line installed to my heart. And all of a sudden, I just felt horrible and broke out in this terrible rash on my back that was excruciating. I couldn't even lift my hands over my head. And some people say it was an infection. Some people say it was the Lyme coming out. I think it may have been all the drugs coming out because I was eating better at this time, and it might have been a cleansing from all that. But you can see it also does have a ring effect. You can see the ring there. Here's another one. Blistering rash. It eventually covered, I think, my whole back up to like here. There's another one. There you can see more of the ring effect. So yeah, see how it's at the top of the spine? It's like all this crap came out or something. I don't know. I was also, I believe, went through pictures the other day of working on my roof with all these toxic chemicals. And I think that was this summer and a month or two before this. So I think that probably added to the chemicals in my body that were already, big from all the drugs and stuff that I had and surgeries. The other thing I found was this document that's from an email that I had sent, and I took out the names, but I sent an email because they kept not wanting to approve me after my original 08-09 stuff. They kept wanting not to approve me when I had to be out of work because I couldn't walk or my knees exploded or whatever. And I eventually, this is what God gave me as my conviction and what I sent to them, that title and subject of the email said Religious Health Conviction. And this was sent in December of 2016. So that was like a year after the incident with the rash on my back. So, I mean, this has been over many years that I've been struggling. For really 15 years, or since '03, more than that, with my health, I guess. So it's been 15 years, I would say, till I started turning around. Then I wrote, it is, and I feel like this was totally given to me by the Spirit of God. It is my religious conviction that God alone is my healer. I put my health fully in the hands of God. Therefore, I cannot put my health in the hands of man. Doing so would violate my conviction that God alone is my healer. I cannot place my health in the hands of God fully and also place my health in the hands of man. This is written by me and was not copied in any part. It is from my heart, not some religion or anything else. And the reason these words are in here is because they kept wanting me to go to a doctor who would give me a diagnosis, and there was none for me because Lyme wasn't active anymore, and I was testing negative for that. And, I had an exploded knee, and they wanted me to go get surgery on it, basically, is what would happen with the doctor, and I wasn't going to do that because I already had surgery on it. Then my other knee blew up later. So this became very important because I didn't have any vacation left at this time at the end of the year, 12/2. And so I was out in January, which I'll get to next. And this came in very important because this was instrumental in them approving for me to have all my vacation for the next year be taken up front. And that had never been done before at this place of business. But they did that for me because I kept saying, you have no policy for people who believe in God for their healing instead of doctors. So I thank God for this because I was able to take 25 or 30 days of vacation, and I'll get into that next from what I wrote. So these are some papers dated February 27th, 2017. I wrote this then, and it says, on Monday, January 30th, so that's the day that I left work feeling horrible. And I wrote this February 27th. So January 30th to February 27th, right in there is how long I was out of work for that time period that I would have been just let go unless God gave me these words to say, which are all true. This is how I truly felt. I remember one time the person in Human Resources said to me, it's very convenient that you feel this way, about God, and you don't have any medical thing to stand up your case. And I said, well, don't you think that it's a normal thing for someone to exhaust everything they can do in themselves and then turn to God for help? Because that's honestly what happened with me. And that's what's going on here. I'm totally honest. So, this was approved. And I thank God for it. Totally all Him. I didn't really write this. I just wrote down what He said and what I believed and what my faith was that I was putting into God. So anyway, here it is. Monday, January 30th, I came to work, had no strength, could hardly grip things, could not stand 20 minutes, or walk very far, or drive far. Lots of pain in the joints and muscles, inflammation, lack of mobility and range of motion, severe depression, severe brain fog, a big lump and pain in my throat. I remember that. And I did not want to eat. I felt like my body was shutting down in every way, like I was dying. I did. I felt like people say they feel when they're dying, like everything starts shutting down. I had no appetite at all. I had a big tingling in my hands and my feet. I remember that. And thinking how that's what happens when people die. I'm glad I can laugh about it now, but it was terrible. I put my life and health in the hands of God alone and listened to his voice and my body, and I kept hearing, surrender, be at peace, rest, and don't eat. So I laid in bed all day and night. I only got up to go to the bathroom, and I lost more energy and kept feeling worse. More pain, lots of popping in my joints, more depressed. My head and fear kept telling me that I was going to die, and people around me were afraid. But I kept hearing the same message in a still, quiet voice. So I listened. It was comforting me. My mouth tasted and smelled awful, downright disgusting, like chemicals and toxic waste. My wife said it smelled like magic markers, but worse. I had trouble even getting to the bathroom or standing. My wife helped open and close the shades many days. I didn't know what was happening, and I was afraid. Mary and I made plans for my death and a living will. I didn't have much to drink at times, too. I kept hearing the same quiet voice comforting me, so I continued to listen. I lost a huge amount of weight and muscle. Flesh and bones left. What? Oh, I only had flesh and bones left. Then one evening, after my wife left the house, without thinking about it, I was led to go downstairs and started eating. I had gone 17 days without any food. This was January 15th. Over the course of the next few days, I gained strength and started to see many signs of being cleansed. My eyes looked very clear. Everyone comments about it. My sinuses and head were really clear, like never in my life. The brain fog was gone, depression lifted, my back and neck lost all of the knots. I had all these knots where that rash was that wouldn't go away. In my neck, there was big knots over here. There was knots in the back between my shoulder blades. And those lumps and knots were gone, and the rash and used to be still a little bit visible, and that was gone. It was like it was all replaced with new flesh and muscle and was healed. My shoulders feel way better and much less popping and stiffness. Inflammation is way down. My weight was 140 to 150 or around 145 before all of this, and I went down to 122. Today, not today, but today when I wrote this, 138, and my appetite is huge. I'm eating 3 times normal amount, super hungry. My glands in my neck feel much better, range of motion feel much better, and I feel good about life and returning to work. I didn't know it or have a plan, but in hindsight, I see that God and my body led me into a rest and fast that healed and is healing me. I had toxins in my body. In 2008, I had 4 surgeries within months. I'm trying to figure out what the 4th one was. There were 4. I don't even remember, like I blocked this stuff out because it was so traumatic. And a PICC line installed to my heart and pumped 48 large bags of antibiotics with all kinds of other chemicals in there over 2 months. Then all the drugs for surgery and pain. During the fast and rest, my body ate up all that tissue and muscle and expelled the toxins. Also, it was very important that I was led not to drink for several days because I found out later I didn't have a plan for that. I was just led to do that. I was listening to the Spirit. And I found out later that that sort of, like in my words, sucks out all the stuff out of your body because it's looking for any kind of moisture. And I think that helped to draw all the toxins out. That's why dry fasting works, I think. But you have to be careful with it because you can die from not drinking. And at one point I asked my wife, I was led to ask her to get me frozen organic orange juice in that tube thing that you take out and make. So I had like a pitcher of orange juice probably like a week in, and that seemed to really do a lot of good things. I don't know what that was all about, but that's basically the only thing I had other than water in 17 days, no food. I have high hopes. I'm still recovering and not at full strength, but my progress each day is absolutely amazing. So those are the documents. This was from February of 17. So I'm going to take this whole folder and throw it in the trash because I don't ever want to see it again. But this video will be the only thing left of it, and I'll probably keep the video. I'm trying to think, what else to tell about this story. So that was February of 2017, and my journals, which you'll hear more about, and which I plan on looking through and making sure there's nothing too personal in there that I don't want to put on the internet, but I'm going to release my journals on my download site at some point. And I'm going to do snippets. More importantly, I'm going to do snippets out of them from those journals, because shortly after this, I started relying more on God. And I've been back and forth with it, with my diet, getting off of a good diet and getting away from relying on Jesus and being completely surrendered. In that 17 days, I cried out to Jesus, specifically to Jesus, and asked him to save me from this. And he did. And when I started feeling better, as we do as humans, we think we got this now, and I did that back and forth for years after that, even up till last year, and some this year a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. And so from 17 to 18, I was going through that back and forth a lot, and then God led me to reading some of the things I've read and talked about in earlier videos and in my book that you can download. And I started keeping journals in December of 18, so that was about almost 2 years later than this, because this was, let's see, February 17, February of 8, almost 2 years later than when I wrote this. So that kind of gives you the whole history of what happened with me. I've realized now at this point that the whole thing has to do with the gut and leaky gut and gut microbiome causing inflammation and joint problems and associated muscle problems, and then toxins of one kind or another. After I was on the pumped antibiotics, then he gave me oral antibiotics, but I did not take them. But I was taking all kinds of also natural supplements that were highly toxic and sometimes healing and toxic. I had everything. I tried everything. I was trying everything from the naturopathic doctor. I was studying on my own on the internet, everything I possibly could, and nothing worked for me until I completely put my hands into the hands of God and completely surrendered to Jesus. And it wasn't something that happened in one day. This was a process over the last few years, from this time to today. And I watch myself very carefully now that I don't get into a routine and start thinking, even subconsciously, I got this now, I do this and I do that and the other thing, and that's what I do, because I keep open to hear, and I pray every morning and talk to Jesus and ask him. I surrender completely to him my own will and ask him for help in everything that I do, to help guide me today and lead me and show me the way and help me be honest with myself, and that I will be led by the Spirit, and I accept his comfort and his peace, and that I won't doubt because I trust in him, and to help me be sober in all my ways, and to recently also been asking for a lot of help with gluttony, and that's been totally changed in my life, which has affected my gallbladder and everything else. I'm eating once a day in the beginning of the day, and it's changed everything. I feel a whole lot better from that. So I think that's everything I wanted to say in this video. If you have any other questions or you want me to go into more detail, I'll be glad to do that and talk about any more of these things. But that's all for now. Hope you have a great day.